I'm going to go all the way to the other end and go to the fellow who held down the banjo chair for Bill Monroe, one of the illustrious banjo players to fill that position with Bill Monroe's band. He also led and is leading an aggregation called the Bluegrass Band, and they have a number of fine recordings which are available from him, probably not tonight because he left them at home, but they've got some fine gospel sets and some fine bluegrass sets out. Yeah, I don't know what all else to say about you, Butch, besides that he plays bluegrass in his own way, and just to turn it to him to talk about a few of his influences and play a few tunes.
I think I'll probably play in the style of the music of Bill Monroe. I don't know that that's bluegrass anymore. Not to open up a big can of worms there. But I learned to play the banjo from folks who were direct descendants, musical descendants of a fellow named Snuffy Jenkins. The first banjo player I ever heard was Earl Scruggs of any note. And the second one was a fellow named Don Reno. Earl Scruggs was probably the first pure bluegrass, according to Bill Monroe's definition of bluegrass banjo player to come along. And what he did was take a style that Snuffy Jenkins had created back during the 20s and 30s. Snuffy saw a fellow, Mr. Van Epps, I don't know which one it was, Fred came through playing with all 5 fingers and everything, classical banjo player. And Snuffy had started out his life as a clawhammer banjo player, and then he adapted the 3-finger style to the banjo. But as I said, I think Earl Scruggs, from learning from Snuffy, took the banjo on into Bill Monroe's band and energized that with a group that lasted from 1946 to about 1949. They had about 3 or 4 years there together, and sort of solidified a sound that was bluegrass music, I guess. But the banjo in that was an instrument which took great liberties with the melody. It stayed within the confines of the melody, sort of, but there was also blues, sort of a bluesy phrasing that was added to it. If you get to listen to some of the early banjo players in the bluegrass thing, there was a guy from down here around Rocky Mount, I think, named Ruby Lyle, who was probably he's my favorite banjo player for Bill Monroe, pre-1958, anyhow, of all of them that played, or pre-Bill Keith style to come in for music. So, may play you a tune. One time, the first time I figured out where Earl Scruggs' playing came from, I used to play with Snuffy Jenkins and Pat Cheryl Gibbs. I was in the Army. Of John Henry, and most people play it out of a G tuning or anything, but one of the first times I ever picked with Snuffy, and then Snuffy played the tune, and it was exactly what Earl Scruggs had played, only coupled with Earl's hands, which practiced a whole lot more than what Snuffy's ever did. Dance music. You know, his first job was as a dancer for the WLS Barn Dance. And if you start listening to the rhythm that he plays, it's a little bit different step. It's more of a... Did any of you ever remember seeing Buddy Ebsen dance on the Beverly Hillbillies, some of that old stick figure dancing like he did? Well, the dancers back in those days had a quicker step than what you see around your fiddlers conventions or the way people square dance now. And it's even when you see professional square dance teams, they're more aggressive against the beat or the backbeat of their music. And when Monroe had learned how to play, his music was a the music inside of it was, from the fiddle music, that's where the intricacies of the melody came from. The singing, harmony parts and everything came from the old-time shake note singing, which I think y'all got some kind of program on shake note singing happened here in the next day or two. And then the rhythm of the music that he played came from a guy named Arnold Schultz, who was an old black man who traveled the rails. Merle Travis learned how to play the guitar, if you remember some of his older music. But Monroe's music played, he set the blues to a very quick pace. Rather than playing at 60 to 80 beats a minute, all of a sudden he's kicked this thing up from 140 to 180 beats a minute where he plays. And as I say, everybody keeps equating dance music to old-time music and everything, but some of the early bluegrass music that was played, there was quite a bit of danceability to it. As bluegrass changed in the 60s and 70s, and the music that exists now is very much a departure from the basic four elements, or three elements, musical elements that Monroe put together. Anyhow, I don't want to get into all that. But as I said, I probably play, as much as anything, just the music of Bill Monroe. When I started playing, there were very few people that played fiddle music on banjo. And I'll play you a piece of one tune of Monroe's. Well, I'll play you, and then I'll play you a tune that I wrote back about 25, 30 years ago when I was first starting to play
She's 26 years old.
banjo.
Are you 26?
Yes, sir. It'll be just fine. But as Monroe had the banjo players like Don Reno who came to work for him, and Don Reno was a guitar player. He transposed his technique over to the banjo is basically what happened. For the first 5 years he played when he didn't even use the fifth string. But he used a lot more intricate noting technique than was ever on the banjo before. And if you really want to see a musician who developed over about a 10-year period of time, listen to Don Reno from the time he went to work for Monroe about 1951, 52, somewhere along about there, until the time that he and Reno, or Red Smiley, split up. Because the guy, as a musician during that period of time, developed more than anybody I ever heard in my life. He developed a real flashy style all his own, and a real wonderful technique to play by. I personally think Earl Scruggs just burned himself out playing. They go in to do a 15-minute radio program on WSM. They show up 3 hours early to rehearse 2 hours for that 15 minutes. And all they played were the songs they did within that 15 minutes, too. It wasn't like you sitting around jamming. They worked those songs, and I'm convinced that half of what blew them up was they just became bored with themselves. Can you imagine doing that? Anyhow, here's Bill Monroe, too.
Is this one of your tunes?
Yeah, if I can figure out where to tune for.